Hello, Intro to Lit class. It seems rather appropriate in wrapping up our look at the Lord of the Rings with doing this as evening settles, as the shadows lengthen at the end of the day and the sun sets on the western horizon. So with this context, I want to just touch briefly on Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and how it applies to where we're going. And we're getting ready to wrap up the semester and wrap up our literary exploration of the problem of evil, its source, its definition, what is it, its action in terms of people, making them better, making them worse, and the problem of can it be resisted or how can it be overcome. So we really have these three things going on. We have the will, okay, and we have the mind, and within the context of the mind and the will, Tolkien is making a statement about power because it is the ring of power. So there's been this equation made between the will and the mind and power. And I want you to think about, just reflect for a few moments on where we've been in terms of Hamlet, in terms of Faustus, in terms of Dante, in terms of Milton. What seems real to us, we act out of our experiential knowledge because that's what seems real. Or do we act out of the unreal world of our head knowledge? And so here, the struggle in the Lord of the Rings is the control of the will, because it is through the exercise of the will that actions happen. And without action, nothing has reality. Nothing has existence. Actions bring those things that are not into being. So faithful actions, it's not just believing, it's faithful actions, acting on what we know up here, or whether we know it experientially or not. Our mind, our reason tells us this is true, and we act on that, and we bring faith into being. That's why James says faith without works is dead. What gives faith life? Your faith will never have life if you don't act on it. And the times that are most important for acting on faith to bring those things to life are the times when we, like Hamlet, doubt the most. It is in those moments of doubting the most what we believe, and yet acting on our faith, on where our reason had taken us in life. Nothing can come from nothing, as Flannery O'Connor pointed out. And if you get rid of faith, what? Do you think there's just a void there? No, look what surfaces in human nature, as in Faustus, when you get rid of the divine. So even when we have these doubts, it's not, faith isn't blind. It's not blind. And this idea of faith not being blind is incredibly important in Richard Adams' portrayal of the problem of evil and the role of faith in controlling the will, in being the source of our actions. So we have the will, we have the mind, we have power, and power is controlling the will. So where does this power to control the will come from? Does it come from the mind, from playing mind games with human beings and creating doubt in them so they no longer act on what they believe is true, the truth of the Bible? They no longer can act on biblical guidelines, on biblical principles, because now they're doubting the Bible as a reliable source. And And so, so does the control of the will come through the mind? The mind is a battlefield like we see in psychomachia. Does it come through the body? So like in Faustus, the desires and the emotions of the body, is that what controls the will? Does it flow between these two things? Well, in Shardik, we're going to look more closely at these questions. Adams is going to lay out a story in which we see a young man named Kelderic, who is a believer, whose character is based on the character of David in the Old Testament. And we're going to see where his actions come from: heart, mind, body, okay? What governs his will, how he exercises his will, what things his actions give life to, and what the consequences of giving life to those things are, the consequences of his actions. But most importantly, in Shardik, we're looking at the definition of power. We've talked about the definition of evil, and we're not through with that discussion yet. And now we're bringing into that a discussion of the definition of power, because the focus of evil, as we saw in John Milton, why did Satan fall? His focus was off of God, the being, the person, the beautiful one that the angels loved. And he became focused on God's authority or his power. So what role does power have in the problem of evil? So we're going to move into the story of Shardik. I just want to give you a couple of heads up for today. So there's a lot of audio posts there. I've posted audio excerpts from chapters 9, 12, 13, 14, chapter 41, chapter 43 and 44. So these are audio posts. You can listen to them, and you need to listen to them or you're going to be completely lost, because in these audio posts, we encounter the backstory of the last 10 chapters of Shardik that we're actually going to read and look at in more detail. You have a journal entry that simply asks you to respond to some questions from each of these chapters that you can listen to. They're PDF files, so you can read along with the audio casts and the PDF files. I encourage you to go to them to find the answers to the questions for your journal entries. Class notes, you need to download your class notes and begin with my PowerPoint presentation, just introducing you to the world of Shardik and the main characters of the novel. And then we'll move on from there. There are no additional links to watch or listen to or read this week. Journal 12 is due. The class notes, hold on to. You're going to be adding to those same class notes over the next several class periods, so they will not be due right away. There is no quiz for today's class either. There is a journal entry. I do ask you to listen to all of the audio files and to complete your journal entry for Friday. If you have questions or concerns, please let me know. God bless you guys. I'll see you on Friday.